Well, I told you people, I told all you viewers on YouTube from the get-go that this is a no bullshit channel and you're going to have successes and failures, and I'm no different than anyone of you out there. And I planted those beans, as you know, on Memorial Day, and since then we've had a mini drought. Temperatures in the 90s every day. Yesterday we had a spit of rain down here in Clark County. Didn't even register in the rain gauge. Northern Iowa got close to an inch. But what I'm getting at is we got to regroup. My beans didn't germinate. The weeds did. So I'm one to put my money where my mouth is. There's an invoice right there for $260. 4 bags of beans, going to regroup. A friend of mine let me use these planter boxes. He said I didn't have to change the transmission with them, new style. So I'm going to go up and no-till beans in on this would be the 15th of June. That's not too late by any means. I mean, I've seen them plant beans on 4th of July if you get the right weather. Now here's what we're going to get. We're supposed to get some rains coming in tonight, which would be Thursday night, rains on Friday, rains on Saturday, and then the temperature is going to cool off. And with that weather pattern, these beans will germinate. What happened, when I planted them in that dry dirt, that worked out fine. The only problem was it stayed dry. And the weed bank below them was in the moisture, and they took over the bean crop. I'm going to take you up here and walk you over and show you what I'm talking about. But sometimes you got to go backward. If you go backward, you got to go forward. So let's walk up here to the field and I'll show you why we're going to replant today. As we approach the fields up here, you'll see when we planted our corn, we planted them right at 2 inches deep, and that was in the moisture. Now this corn is 9-10 inches tall, and it's fared pretty good. We sprayed it this morning because it was getting some weeds in there, and I wanted to get the weeds knocked out prior to this rainfall event. But as we walk over here, we'll see what I'm talking about here. There was weeds coming in the corn, so it's time to spray to get ahead of it. You don't want to get them any bigger than that. But here's what what we got to redo. When you get out here, this is where we broadcast the beans at. And most of this is what you're seeing right here is velvet leaf. That light green, there's a bean, dark green, a bean there. But the light green, all that light green stuff was the weed bank that germinated. The beans were shallow, they didn't get the moisture, so they didn't germinate at the rate that the weed bank did. This whole thing down in here, there's a few beans in there, but it's basically dominated by grasses and velvet leaf. Now I want to take you back here and show you where it's really bad. Yeah, this area from here on up through here is nothing but velvet leaf. You can tell the velvet leaf. You got, when I pull this out, if I can, there's the velvet leaf. And over here is the bean. The bean will be on your right on the screen, and the left would be the velvet leaf. So you could think if you didn't know, you'd think it had a hell of a crop of beans, but that should have had that many beans in there. But what happened, like I said, the velvet leaf was in the moisture, and the beans didn't get any moisture because they were shallow planted. Now I've had great success with that in the past, as you've seen on many of my videos of planting that broadcast. This year with this weather pattern, it's affected everybody, and I've seen corn laid by in northern Iowa. I've seen beans that were stupendous, and I've also seen fields like this. So let's get at it. It's going to be 94 or 95 out here on this field. Won't take long to plant this. It's just something you have to do. But the corn's holding its own for as hot as it's been and little rain. But that's good because it's rooted down and its roots are growing into the moisture. The beans just couldn't find the moisture because it dried out. I get some rain on that corn. It'll make good corn. Now that you've seen that, now you know why we're planting beans. Like I said, not everybody's going to have success, but we can try. We're going to go up and we're going to drill these beans in. I don't really care how I get them drilled in, whether they stay in a row or not. 38-inch row planter, so I can go crisscross whatever, but I want to get them in the ground. But, so, $260 mistake, you could say, but really it's not a $260 mistake. It was what got you through in the past. What worked in the past didn't work this year, and I'm not the only one in that boat. But I'll tell you one thing, I'm really glad I'm making this video, because this is what you're going to be faced with in the real world. It's not all high fives and knee-high crops. When you go out to plant food plots, some of you are going to be winners and some of you are going to have setbacks. But don't call yourself a loser. Just reload. That's what we're going to do right now. Yeah, you also notice these beans here were inoculated. I say that's not a major factor, but they were a little better quality bean, a little more for the inoculation, but it's late in the season and the co-op had them on hand, so they were glad to see them go out the door. Well, like I said, planting beans take 2, 2017. Take a look at this furrow. Yeah, there's the bean. Bean there. Beans there. We're planting. We're going to take you on a ride and I'm going to show you what we're going to plant through. You see that marker? There is moisture down there, or it wouldn't be leaving that much black on top. Okay, we'll take this down. Now you can see what we're planting through. Most of that you're looking at, that green, is undesirable velvet leaf. So it's been sprayed, should die off, beans come up through it. Look good from the road. You know, I feel pretty good that I'm taking you along because, like I said, I'll show you my failures right along with my successes, because in the real world, it's the real world. And it's not always going to be a rainbow at the end of this, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Now you can really see that green haze. What you're looking at there is not beans. It's a good crop of velvet leaf. I wish I got the beans that well established. Well, let's get back on the worker road. You notice that ground's still pretty soft, and that's good. That marker doesn't have a hard time going through it at all. Oh, I got good penetration. Well, we're back in the shade. It's in its 90s out there. Got a good breeze though. But of all the videos I made, I hope you find this the most interesting. I told you when I started these videos, they were going to be for better or for worse, but the truth. Cost me $260. I'm not whining about that. I want to make that plot happen because I know how much grazing pressure comes on that in the wintertime. It's not for me, it's for the wildlife. It's not to kill something, it's to grow something. People say, well, you're surrounded with all kinds of ag crops in Iowa. That's right. And guess what? They all get harvested. Do I have a better chance of killing a bigger buck than you? Nope. I just enjoy doing what I'm doing and giving back. And this time, it bit me in the ass. But I'm man enough to man up, put a new crop in. June 15th. It's out of my hands. It's in the man's up above hands. And I don't care who you are or what seed you put to the ground. If you don't have the right moisture at the right time, the same thing's going to happen to you. So don't think you're the victim of anything. Just suck it up and move on. Reload, replant, and that's it from the non-typical Norwalkian. All I'm doing now is waiting on the rain. See you on down the road. Well, here we are, next morning. 16 hours later, we got a half an inch of rain in this rain gauge. Probably had more, but for what it measured was a half inch. Let's go up on the field and take a look at it. Had a lot of water on that tank that wasn't there 16 hours ago. Yeah, we're walking up here. Woods are wet. Got mud on the trail. And right at daybreak. Yep. That dirt was bone dry yesterday. And now it's mud. Still a little dry, but it's got mud in it now. This was very much needed rain. Now remember, we sprayed this corn yesterday, so that burn down will start taking place. But getting those beans in the ground were really, really essential for getting that rain on there. Like I said, we just planted these beans 16 hours ago, and in that 16-hour period, we got rain. Now these beans that you see have been in the ground since the 15th. Today is the 24th. So Thursday to Thursday would have been a week, and then Friday would have been 8 days, 9 days. So here's what happened in 9 days. Now when you look down through there, you can see those rows of beans. That's 9 days of growth. The beans here were broadcasted on, and that's as high as they've gotten so far. You can see where my Roundup work, it burnt the grass down because this was all green with grass. But it didn't work well because of the water hemp and the broadleaf weeds. But I burned it down the 15th in the morning. I seeded it in the afternoon, put them in the ground. It had a half-inch rain last Thursday night. And you can see that they tapped into the moisture that was in the ground, and now you got rows. Hopefully I can save this bean crop by doing that, because as you can see the burn down here in the brown, but when you get over here to these broadleaf weeds, which basically a water hemp type, I got to go to the co-op. I got germination down through here. There's rows down through here. But I got to burn this weeds off because they're Roundup resistant. Just wanted to show you firsthand that things can go south if you don't get the proper moisture. And I'm really proud that that happened, because if I can turn what looks like a failure into a success, then we're all going to learn from it. If you don't get proper rain when you broadcast your beans on, this is the first year that it's failed. I'll use it again, but the learning curve. I just had Conrad and Candy from Tennessee up here on their way back home, YouTube subscribers, and they witnessed this right along with you. Like I say, here is the result of planting the bean. Here's the result of the broadcast. But the broadcast beans didn't come in hardly at all, because they were planted in the dry and the weeds were growing in the moisture. And when you look out there, Roundup wouldn't. But I got a gal that's going to come up with a herbicide mix that will address this problem and burn that off. So, but like I said, these are germinated in that row, 38-inch row, in 9 days. Had I done that, had plenty of moisture when I broadcasted them on, but I broadcasted them on too high, and the weeds were at the moisture level, and the beans laid on top and didn't germinate. Let's see what happens when it's all said and done. Yep. Try to grow a food plot in this ground. Those cracks are made there by how dry it is. It can be challenging.